8,500만 대한국인 여러분, 대한 역사문화 광복 대장정에 동참하지 않으시겠습니까?
첫 번째 발표는 러시아 학자인 칭기스 아냐노프 박사께서 한국과 시베리아의 샤머니즘의 어떤 비교 연구를 했습니다. 이 칭기스 아냐노프 박사는 역사학자이자 고고학을 전공한 분입니다. 현재 부리아트 동시베리아 문화연구소의 수석 연구원으로 근무를 하고 계십니다. 부리아트는 이 바이칼 이 근처에 있는 자치공화국인데요. 그 수도가 울란우데입니다. 그 울란우데에 소재한 이 동시베리아 문화연구소에서 일을 하고 계십니다. 시베리아와 아시아 지역의 여러 민족들의 고대 역사 그리고 고고학에 관해서 깊은 이해를 하고 계시고 또 실제로 많은 연구를 하셨습니다. 자, 그러면 먼저 이 칭기스 박사님의 한국과 시베리아 샤머니즘의 문화적 유사성에 관한 발표를 듣도록 하겠습니다. 네, 그러면 부탁합니다.
Good day, my dear colleagues, and I hope that friends. My name is Chingiz Khanyanov, and I living in Russia, in Siberia, in city Ulan-Ude. It's a not big city situated near Baikal Lake, holy place for many nations. And I have a big privilege and honor to be the part of the Saran conference. And I would like to say thanks to all the support team, to all technical team, and everybody who helped me to be a part of this conference. And of course, I would like to say private thanks to President An Ge-jong. I would like to tell my speech it cultural parallels between Korean and Siberian shamanism as a proof of authenticity of Hwandangogi. And from the very beginning, I would like to tell a little bit about myself and where I am living. Living in Buryatia, Mongolian border, and very holy place, Lake Baikal, and also quite famous mountain called Barkhan Ula. And by many religions, it's very, very sacred place. Also in Buryatia, we have a place called Khorin, and many people, many historians saying that Khori and Kori have same roots in the very ancient times. And from that time, I started to be interested about history of Korea and maybe some links and cultural parallels between Korean peninsula and Siberia and Altai region. In this work, in this project, we are looking at the, first of all, in linguistic parallels, of course, then in culturology, and of course, history and anthropology and archaeological excavation. In these parts, we can find some similarities. And from the very beginning in 2014, I visited some places of Buryatia region. I have an honor to meet President, and I was acquainted with the sacred book Hwandangogi. And this book, which tells Hwandangogi, tells us about the original history of Northeast, information about the political, religion, and cultural life of the population in Hwanguk era. But also, it's much more bigger spread out in the nearest territories, for example, as the Siberia and Yakutia region. And it can give us information, gives on the dark spot of the ancient history. That's why very important to study and to find some analogy and truth about the situation in the past, modern, and in the future. And I need to say that we have quite different history, but also we can find some similarities. And when I study the Korean history, I can see that last 2 centuries, it was a very big invasion from the Japanese militarism and imperialism. And you should, of course, know that Japanese, they occupied Korea and they tried to change the names. They disturb the history, and they destruct and destroy some historical and archaeological provements about the religion and memory of Korea. And in Siberia, some minorities, like in Altai, in Siberia, Yakutia, are not so strong, I would say, not so rash and terrible invasion, but anyway, from the very beginning, it was some nation. They have very big influence of the Orthodox Church. Plus, in the 20th century, it was communism, and the communism said it is no God, it is no any spiritual life, and it was not around the Russians, and they destroyed Orthodox churches. But plus, they destroyed everything in the, we would say, Siberian minorities, and mostly of them is Asian people. And most of them believe in the shamanism, Buddhism, and just naturalism. They believe in nature, forces of nature. And here you can see some ancient Russian, and you can see here the astronaut. His name is Gagarin. He was actually the first to the space, to universe, and it was very big proud of the Russian nation, of the Russian era, and actually it's generally the good idea, good event. But when he flight, he kind of said it is no God, and here you can see there is no God, he said, which means we have also part of the, how to say, totally of the science, power of the science. That's why we can see some cultural parallels. And if we will look on the ancient times, you can see here the very famous Korean crowns. And you should probably know very well, it's one of the treasures of the Korean history and Korean culture. And I have opportunity and a good chance to see these crowns in the original excavation places, and also I read a book about how it was excavated, what does it mean. And if you will see, they have the interesting pattern, and we believe that they have similar patterns in our region and also in Siberia. Pattern, I mean the decoration, and I will try to show you now. For example, you can see here the part of the ancient carpet which was excavated in Pazyryk culture. It's situated near Altai region, and this archaeological culture called Pazyryk. And you can see here the goddess, and she holding the tree of life. And this very huge carpet, now it's in a museum called the Hermitage in St. Petersburg. And we can see here some very same motifs with the traditional Korean. For example, not so far ago, we start to study about the Mago Castle. And we suppose that it can situated in the region of Siberia called Yakutia. And in this region, we can quite definitely say it was remains of the ancient culture, and maybe it was a Mago goddess. And here, of course, it's just a symbol of this goddess, because this in this picture you can see the lady, and as I said, lady, I would say the goddess, and that's what interesting, that sitting on the throne and they holding, see, this tree of life. And in many mystic tradition, especially in Yakutia, they have the legend called Olonho, and in this legend it says about the very powerful godless mother who sending the very powerful sons to the earth, and they are fighting with the evil spirits, dark spirits, with the light in the border. Plus, it's about these crowns and the common patterns. In the ancient Yakut legends, it says about the man who his name is Horo. And we suppose, with some scientists from Institute Chensando, that maybe in Horo man, he came from the place which was probably the ancient Hwandangogi. Plus, it says it came from the southeast, and he traveled a lot, and he started a big part of the Korean nation. He bring a big part to this, and that's what we need to study and listen very careful. Second, what I'd like to say about the in Hwandangogi book, it says a lot about the cosmic year, and in many shamanistic tradition, it was a worshipping cycle around the North Star and the changes of the cycle of the year among shamanist people. And when we think about the year, it's not only about the lunar classical calendar year, but also about the time period much more bigger than one. We're talking about the cosmic year. And in shamanistic, you need to know that it's very close to the real life of the nomadic people. And nomadic people in winter time, they prefer to stay in one place because it's the life of the modern Siberia is very hard and harsh, very hard condition to live. And winter time in the shamanistic tradition and our classical tradition, it's place when the life is just starting. All sits behind the thick layer of and just waiting for the warm time when it can give some small green bloomquist. It can be flourished. And you should know that also traditionally the people in Mongolia, Altai and Buret, Baikalian region, Yakutia, they prefer to stay near one place. It's called ger, like a house, a woolen house. Not running so much around. It's even dangerous. And in our tradition, wintertime is just a preparing for life. That all your forces, all your desires had to live through this time because it's quite harsh. And even all the pregnancy is waiting for birth. All the green stuff is waiting to be flourished. And then second one you can see here in the very top. It's called spring. And spring in a cosmic year, it's time when it's starting to be flourishing, and all the flowers, especially in cosmic April and May, starting to grow up, and all animals giving birth. For example, mooses, sheep, cows, they giving the cubes and small animals, and even the people. It's hard to believe, but all time the people prefer not to born babies in the middle of the winter because it's really hard to feed them. But springtime giving much more spring stuff and means actually, and it's time when it's starting. And summertime is cosmic year. It's time for the best and fast growing of everything. It's all the sheep and cows and everything is growing very fast. All nature is now in green and starting to produce some fruitful time, but not peak the maximum, but just beginning of this. Because you should know that nomadic people and the people in our life, they are much more closer to the nature. And because we're living a little bit far from the civilization, from the interest of the big countries, we are kind of conservative, preservative and safe traditions. And in many local cultures you can find ancient ideas how universe was created. And final point, it's a fall. You can see in this diagram in the very bottom. Fall, it's a result of all when fall is ready to produce. It's fruitful, and the people, especially in September, is taking the harvest. And the year is almost finishing. And as a Hwandangogi book said, they are almost in the beginning of the fall. That's kind of our final countdown. We need to our final lessons. And because I am speaking from Russia, you should know that it's war conflict. And of course, I'm not talking about now who is right, who is not, because it's very, very harsh situation. But it's support and it's a proof of authenticity of Hwandangogi that we are almost in the fall. We need to be ready. We need to be ready. And if we coming back to shamanism, I need to say this, that you can see here the shamanistic bullet crown, and it's made from the iron, and usually the shaman didn't wear it all the time. Of course, it's heavy and uncomfortable, that they use it specially for special rituals. And as you know, then Koguryo and Puyo, it was some shamanistic periods in Korean time when they who can predict the future, they ask from the heavens. And in shamanistic tradition also we worship Huhemunhe Tengeri, endless, never endless blue sky, Tenger, like a sky. And through these horns, the shaman, they kind of join to the willness of God, their desires, and they can say to the people what God's really the crown. And as I said, very important religious of any shaman. And I have a chance, and many times I visited shamanistic rituals, and many of them knows about Korea. Some of them I even visited it, and they have connection with academician and the practitioners in the Korea, and they even for me said we have a lot of similarity. And you should know that during the period when it was under the oppression, under the persecution, the shaman roots, they cut it down, because the Buddha believe that you need to be to have in your genealogical line before your ancestors must to be some shaman people. If, for example, my dad was a shaman, for example, father can have not this gift, but nephew, or for example, can have this unity. And I need to say that it's also was a problem, because during the Soviet time many of them decided not to practice anymore, and as a local shaman said that they didn't rituals anymore. They not ask the about wellness and about the to be kind to the nephews and sons and grandsons. That's why it was this link was destroyed. Many generation now we have a big problems. It's social life in alcoholism, and even tragedy and suicides happens very often. And when it's happened in this, the people saying you need to do something, like you need to ask shaman to come and fix situation. This last 30 years it happened, but Soviet time it was more like if you're not good communist, you must to be under the oppression, you will be go to jail, or you have psychological problems, and some of them was put to hospitals. And in this picture you can see the shaman, and it's of course the photo of the before Soviet time, and he holding the tambourine. And here is what we can see in Hwandangogi, cultural parallels, because shaman man or woman was more like a mediator between the skies and spirits, and very often he was sent by the Tenger, and he can explain the willness of and this tambourine they're using more like we would say the horse or the animal which he can ride on, and he can ride on up to the up skies to the white world, or down to the evil forces, to the dark world where is the evil forces living. And during the ritual, the shaman, you can see here two kind of some Western, they called hat. They fight it for the, we can say, light forces, for the forces of kindness, and of course the white shirt as usual people, and sometimes they wear special attribution. And when for some invite ancestors or important decision, he invited the shaman, and he can be kind of protector, and sometimes spirit can come to his soul and to speak through him. And it was very interesting, like a show event. Also, it's a story about the dark shaman, because black, usually it was a blacksmith or generally smith, because they believe that the only shaman have a force over the fire and the fire and iron. And if you can see in Hwandangogi also we have interesting some suggestions of the presenting fire and who gave and which era gave the iron to the human population, and that's very interesting. Yes, here the also men who living away, they have a special holy forest where this man lived, and he can be like a ruler and protector of the local and here is we visited ceremony, and the trees are very decorated by pieces of fabric. Usually it's a white, blue, red and yellow colors, and he connecting these and white pieces of fabric and put it to the tree from very top to the bottom of tree, and all colors have different meanings, especially respectable white and yellow. White also represent silver, plus it represent the light. We have a story that strong man was born in the light of moon, and even Genghis Khan a lot of story how the moon to be the his avatar and protector of his tribe. Second, it's a yellow. It's very respectable. It's represent gold, of course, and plus light of sun. When I have read the Hwandangogi, Dangun Segi, I can see that yellow sun, and it starts to be a protector and the one of the symbols of the Korean dynasties. And also very respectable, it's a blue piece of fabric called hadak. It's still in our, and people when going to Buddhist temple, they are noting hadak somewhere. And also you should know that also to Buryatia especially, we have a penetration of Buddhism, and here we have a very big mix between the local shamanistic culture and Buddhism. And I can see here some also cultural parallels between the Korean Peninsula and Buryat Republic, Baikal region. And a little bit about the shamanistic dresses. You can see here it's very colorful, and of course in the very basement for the dresses is a traditional national dress. And if we will see old Korean shamans, we can find also some decoration, metal things, and these knots and threads. It represents snakes who is joining to the world under the ground, and this called moroi, like snakes. They have connection with this, and you can see the Korean story about the snakes at the center of the messages. Kind of these ropes, see different colors. The spirits of the previous shaman, strong shamans, and the ancestor and descendants. And when he's starting, he's making sounds of tambourine and making ritual dance called kamlangi. Also this figure from the top, and also you can see some decoration. And in the very chest of the shaman, you can see here some different colors and pieces of tree and roots, and also the mirror. It's represent the map to other worlds called Toli. It's a tambourine, and tambourine by any shamans, and they have their own soul, their own name. And here you can see he has from the inner side he has a face. He taking tambourine and he calling spirits to come, and spirits who know shaman are spirits of shaman ancestors. And his tambourine has his own voice, and he jumps around the fire and connecting with the tambourine. You can see shaman tambourine with a schematic representation of the world. And you can see the cross. It's also a very ancient symbol, and different parts. It's also four parts of the world, and the very top and the very center is a cross. It's a rear view of the same tambourine. And also a very important part of the shaman culture, it's a belief in ancestor and descendants. And as you know, we are people who have a part of our DNA of our ancestors, and when we studying the DNA of the Korean people, modern Korean people, and some Yakut people, and also people from Horinsk region, Hori, I mean, the part of the modern Buryat Republic, we can see very same genealogy, DNA, closest, but as a spirituality, we can say that in Hwandangogi, we can see that some part of the nation, they moved to the forest, to some holy lake, and we can see it in Hwandangogi, and that part of them moved and reached the holy, and we can suppose that it's Barhan Ullah because it's situated in a north part of the Lake Baikal. Also, many subjects about which we can read in Samsungi and other 5 books in Hwandangogi, we can see in the on the shamanistic tambourines, because the people, they have no literacy. That's why they it was oral tradition to tell about the story, and you can see different nations. I made small minorities. Here it's called shore people, Shorian, mountain Shore. It's in Altai region. Altai tambourine, Selkup tambourine, Teleut, Ket, Dolgan. Here's like a horse, and here is an iron crown with, as I said, all these sujets. It's also you can find in Hwandangogi about the people who is taking other territories, who is made a very profound civilization, and they this civilization of Hwandangogi spread out to the Baikal Lake and even to the more to the north. And if we will compare materials from the Baikal region, and the shamanism is not only the property of the Siberian people, but it's shamanism is a property of many other nations of Asia, and we can say it's just maybe a Korean people, because under the long influence of the Japan and 20th century, it's American culture, and the previous knowledge and glory bit faded now. It faded, as we can see. Korean and as a Buryat or Yakut Altai shamanism also have a lot of common in dogmatic genesis, and even in the beliefs and the heroes. It's we can see that it was one root, and as I said, Korean and Buryat also as a Yakut or Altai shamanism have a lot of a common in their dogmatic and genesis. For example, the way of gaining the status of shaman disease and stuff like that. But it's that not so important, as important that it have one resource, one real person who is starting, because it is so very same in so small details that we can say that before many thousand years ago, maybe 8 or 9 years ago, it was the same root, same resource, and it was somewhere in the middle of the earth. And shamanism is still a cult of religion and a common link between the Siberian people and Koreans, which we can construct a very strong position about it. As I said, we suppose also about language, and also this language and this fact have a huge impact on the culture and mentality of all nations. Of course, Korean shamanism now it's very different from the Siberian one, and they have more details. It was more developed because you have more historical resources and described more well, and maybe because of very soft influence of the Confucianism and Buddhism anyway, they were not so strict and not destroyed totally the popular folk. Also, we can say that modern ethnic Korean group, as long as they will hold the Hwandangogi, and as long as they will hold the traditional lifestyle and the belief of the ancestors as long as they will exist as an ethnic and nation group who believe, and they will be stronger and stronger. If you know their history, you can see it with bravely to the future if you know your past. And we can say that Hwandangogi now they plays a big role to preservation of the Korean traditional culture. I mean in the positive role, and it can integrate and to be can play more and more stronger role as studying and develop the role in the cultural and historical life, and not to be alternative history, to be more like stronger and influence. And this is my final version. Thank you very much for your listening, and I'm so happy, and now I'm ready to answer maybe to some questions.
Thank you, Dr. Cengiz, for your precious presentation. 칭기스 박사님이 시베리아, 특히 이제 자신이 살고 있는 이 브리아트 쪽의 샤머니즘과 한국의 샤머니즘 전통의 이제 유사점들을 쭉 이야기를 해주시고, 또 그 다음에 이제 환단고기에 나오는 그러한 이제 사상들도 좀 소개를 해주셨습니다. 그런 것들이 이제 어떤 샤머니즘과의 연관이 있는 그런 점들이 있다고 지적을 하셨는데요. 사실은 이제 우리 한국인들의 조상들이죠. 이 조상들이 이제 여러 중국에서도 이제 후일 들어오신 분들도 있고, 그런데 원래 이제 거슬러 올라가면 한국인들의 이제 주류는 아마 시베리아 쪽 이 바이칼 지역에서 이제 내려오신 분들이 많았던 것 같습니다. 그래서 이들이 이제 만주의 자리를 잡고, 그리고 이제 한반도까지 이제 진출을 했던 것으로 학자들은 일반적으로 보고 있습니다. 그래서 시베리아에 살고 있는 여러 소수 민족들, 예를 들어서 이제 브리아트인들 같은 경우 우리하고 DNA 조사를 해봐도 비슷한 데가 많아요. 저는 얼마 전에 브리아트에서 온 젊은 친구들을 몇 사람 같이 밥을 먹었는데 너무 비슷해가지고 도저히 외국인이라고 생각을 할 수가 없었습니다. 또 이제 브리아트 소개를 해주셨습니다만은 조상 중에서 코로라는 사람이 있었다 그러죠. 그리고 또 코리 부족이라는 부족이 있습니다. 중요한 부족 중에. 코리 부족은 남쪽에서 왔다고 하니까 우리 역사에서 고리국, 해모수가 나왔던 고리국하고 아마 연관이 되어 있는 것 같아요. 그래서 사실은 이제 우리하고 이 바이칼 지역의 여러 민족들하고는 상당히 이제 친연 관계가 많은 것 같습니다. 그래서 앞으로 그들의 이제 역사와 문화에 대해서도 우리가 관심을 많이 갖고 연구를 해야 될 것 같습니다. 그리고 이제 오늘날의 이제 샤머니즘은 러시아 같은 경우는 이제 공산당 지배하에서는 많이 억압을 받았죠. 그래서 이제 샤머니즘이 많이 약화됐다가 30년 전쯤에 이제 이 소비에트 체제가 무너지면서 이제 다시 샤머니즘을 이제 샤머니즘의 힘이 좀 살아나고 있는 것으로 그렇게 이제 일반적으로 지적이 되고 있습니다. 한국 같은 경우도 이제 샤머니즘은 사회의 이제 저류, 그러니까 이제 공식 사회에서는 많이 억압을 받기 때문에 이 뒷골목으로 이렇게 많이 샤머니즘이 이제 숨었다라고 이야기를 할 수가 있는데요. 그러나 이러한 샤머니즘이 어떻게 보자면 한국의 옛 조상들이 갖고 있던 여러 가지 우주관이라든지 신관이라든지 이런 것들이 조금 변형된 형태로 어떻게 보자면 좀 타락한 형태로 이제 나타난 게 아닌가 이렇게 이제 이야기를 할 수가 있습니다. 거기서 이제 우리 조상들의 신앙 같은 것을 이제 좀 엿볼 수가 있는 것이죠. 그리고 또 이제 하나 이 칭기스 박사가 지적을 한 것으로는 한국에서 일부 기록에서 나오는 마고 할머니, 마고 삼신 그 마고 문화라는 것도 이 바이칼 지역에서 이 시작이 된 것으로 이야기를 할 수가 있다는 겁니다. 그래서 앞으로 이것은 우리가 더 그 현지 답사라든지 그런 것을 통해서 연구를 더 해야 할 그런 주제인 것 같습니다. 네, 그 징기스 박사님 그 발표 감사드리고요.
8,500만 대한국인 여러분, 대한 역사문화 광복 대장정에 동참하지 않으시겠습니까?